the West in American history. To speak of the West, which has all kinds of images in our minds, in our imaginations, some real, some imagined, romanticized, all kinds of responses. But to speak of the West historically, at its beginnings, is to talk first and foremost of Native Americans. And then after that, the impact of the Spaniards, primarily the Spaniards, as far as Europeans were concerned. For Native Americans, we would need to go back to the earliest migration into the Western Hemisphere, which is not where humans originated, is to argue what is, I think, the prevailing argument, unless proved otherwise with all the recent controversies, but that Native Americans came from Asia, Siberia, crossing that land bridge that is now the Bering Straits, now some 23 miles of water, but when the sea level was lower, a land bridge to Alaska, or by water itself, crossing that relatively narrow area into the northern regions of North America. We can trace the history in terms of artifacts, fossil remains, of that movement of Native Americans southward. Groups staying put where they were and adapting to a lifestyle of that particular area. Whether we're talking about the Inuits in the Arctic region, but others moving southward, finding pathways in glacial North America, some ending up in the east, but a significant number of such people moving down through the west of what is now Canada, into the west of what is now the United States. Staying put or continuing to migrate southward into Mexico, into Central America, into South America. And each of these groupings adapting to very, very different lifestyles according to the climate, the lay of the land, Arctic, temperate, tropical. As far as the West is concerned, here also we see great differences within that West as far as Native American culture is concerned. In what we might call the Northwest, we see various coastal tribes that live life accordingly in terms of being a fishing culture. Inland, further southward, we see hunting kinds of tribes, agricultural tribes, covering the gamut of possible lifestyles. Again, according to climate, according to the lay of the land. In looking at the history of Native Americans, there was a tendency to romanticize or to call such communities, describe them in certain utopian ways, to see them as noble in outlook, noble in their lifestyles. There are problems with all of this. If we want to describe early Indian communities in an idealistic way, there are areas that we can do just that. But this effort to idealize Native Americans avoids the obvious, that we're talking about human beings, complex human beings, as all of us are. And in that complexity we see variety. We see differences. We see friendly Indians, we see combative Indians, peaceful or...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?